This video is sponsored by simplisafe. There's no safe like simplisafe. The Perks of Being a Wallflower was the coming-of-age film if you were a tween or teen in the 2010s. You could not open Tumblr without seeing that gif of Logan Lerman crying, or one of the 3 quotes everyone was obsessed with, always in typewriter font. With a relatably awkward protagonist longing for connection, and an eccentric, cool, weird friend group happy to provide it, we ate this movie up. And for good reason. It's less common for a film adaptation to evenly match or outright surpass the quality of the book it was based on. And it's exceptionally uncommon for the author of the book to be the person who gets to adapt it. Nevertheless, Stephen Chobosky has described The Perks of Being a Wallflower from book to screen as one of the greatest artistic experiences he has ever had and will ever have. The Perks of Being a Wallflower is the rare case where someone follows their creative vision through 3 artistic mediums: a novel, a screenplay, and a film. We're going to find out what this process looked like, how creative control affected the story, and what exactly makes The Perks of Being a Wallflower a perfect adaptation. But first, a quick spoiler and trigger warning. The Perks of Being a Wallflower was published in 1999, and by 2000 had sold 100,000 copies. But even with the book's quick success, a 30-year-old Stephen Chobosky first and foremost saw himself as a screenwriter and a filmmaker before an author. It's what he wanted to do. It's what he went to school for. The Perks of Being a Wallflower started as a book, but Chobosky always intended for it to become a movie. And it's not like there weren't offers. In an interview with Pathos, Chobosky said his agent got around a call a week from interested parties wanting to buy the rights to make the film. But despite Perks being only semi-autobiographical, it was still a deeply personal story. It takes place in his hometown of Pittsburgh. The characters are inspired by the people he grew up with. And it was the first time a writing project had come so easily to him. For these reasons, Chobosky's stance from the get-go was that either he was going to direct the movie, or the movie was never going to exist. So 10 years after the book was released, when he felt inspired, a little reckless, and the timing was right, Chobosky began the screenplay. While the book only took 4 months for him to write, the screenplay took him a year. He faced a ton of creative roadblocks while trying to figure out the best way to adapt the novel. Chobosky said, "The book is very emotional. It's very intimate. It very much feels like it's Charlie and you. And it's designed to feel that way, and I wanted the movie to feel the same. But it's such a different medium. It's not first-person narrative, it's objective. It's not a series of letters, it's the images that accompany them. For me, it wasn't difficult to lose things so much as it was to create the same feeling, but based on scenes. It's one thing for Charlie in the book to say that Patrick is so funny or that Sam is so sweet, but writing those characters so the viewers feel the same way as Charlie is another thing entirely." Chobosky said, "I had to find a way to focus the story to emphasize the friendships and the family of friends. The book deals with Charlie's extended family a great deal. It deals with his parents, his aunt, so I still needed the family presence, but I didn't have all the time in the world to do it. So I had to find ways to be very efficient." Structurally, the events of the book and the movie align pretty closely, with most exceptions being what Chobosky omitted. While there is a much stronger emphasis on Charlie's family and generational trauma in the book, the movie doesn't suffer for not spending too much time with them. If anything, those ways he chose to show them efficiently, with Charlie's parents, for example, often characterized in brief, in-between moments while other beats are happening, feel so much longer than they are in the best way.
Charlie, you've got to break up with her.
I can do that?
For Christ's sake, I need to use the phone.
But it's clear this is something Chobosky really struggled with. His reluctance to exclude parts with Charlie's family members shows in how much material was left in the final draft before moving to production, some of which was even shot, and then later cut in post. When asked what the hardest part about screenwriting was, he credited the unforgiving structure, which is fair. Probably the most widely taught screenwriting book, Save the Cat by Blake Snyder, is probably the most by-the-book book I've ever read. It tells you what needs to happen on page 15. On top of that, screenwriting typically discourages your heroes from being passive, which is difficult when the story is about a wallflower, who by definition is shy and passive. These are the things Chobosky struggled with the most. So fun fact, I currently live alone, which feels illegal to say. Technically, it's not true. I live with my cat, Detective Loki. And though I named him after Jake Gyllenhaal's character in Prisoners, he does not, unfortunately, stop crime. But he doesn't need to because we have simplisafe. With their app, it's so easy to connect devices and arm or disarm the system wherever and whenever you want. simplisafe covers all the bases. There are no hidden fees or long-term contracts. Another fun fact, when I was 10 years old, I was home alone during a robbery. Now, we don't have time to unpack all of that, but I can say the experience left me indelibly aware of the importance of home security. simplisafe has been named Best Home Security Systems by US News and World Report for 5 years in a row, and has been recognized for top customer service by Newsweek and USA Today. One of my favorite features, the Active Guard outdoor protection, isn't just for people with yards. I live in a pre-war apartment building, which means I'm always a little scared of someone climbing up my fire escape and breaking through my window. But simpliSafe's AI-powered security systems alert agents on standby to suspicious individuals approaching. They can see and speak to them in real time, trigger alarms and spotlights, and even request police dispatch, all before a break-in happens. Peace of mind now has a price tag, and it's around $1 a day. And for my audience, simplisafe and I have partnered up to save you guys 50% on your simplisafe security system when you sign up for a professional monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplisafe.com/Sloan to customize yours. There's no safe like simplisafe. In a panel with SAG-AFTRA, Chobosky said his favorite part of the screenwriting process is the satisfaction when you know you got it right. I know exactly what he's talking about because it's my favorite part too. In the vaguest terms, the best screenwriting boils down to two things: having one thing do several things simultaneously, and saying the most you can in the fewest words possible. It's challenging and limitless even in its rigid rules, but when you pull it off, it's so gratifying. A great example of this is when he tried to figure out how to condense the events that take place from Christmas to New Year's. In the book, the whole section takes up about 45 to 50 pages, which is pretty largely comprised of exploring Charlie's extended family. Chobosky didn't have the pages to do that in the script, so instead, he decided to show Charlie at Christmas Mass taking communion. When he brings the wafer up to his mouth, it cuts to him trying a tab of acid at a New Year's party. Chobosky told Script Mag, "That little match cut said more to me about Charlie's corruption and his exploration than any 30-page tangent in the book could ever say. It was the power of movies, and I had a great time trying to find those types of solutions." There's also something to be said for the subject matter itself. Actor John Malkovich read the screenplay and told Steve Chobosky, "I love your script because there's real heart, and because it has heart, you don't need sentiment." This is evident all throughout the screenplay, but I think the best example of this is in the scene Chobosky is most proud of having written and created. Here's what he has to say about it.
It's my personal, absolute favorite scene. As the novelist, as a person, and as a filmmaker. For me, this scene is a perfect expression of what I wanted to say as a novelist and as a filmmaker. That sometimes it's just these little moments of kindness between people, and that if you are a person like Sam, and later we will reveal about Charlie, who have been through things, that the greatest thing that you can do is take what you're given and turn it into something beautiful. For some people, they turn it into art. For other people, they turn it into a business or motivation to have a great family or a beautiful marriage. And for this young girl, in this one moment on this one night, she turns it into the perfect first kiss.
Although Perks was Chobosky's first time directing under a studio, he felt assured by his experiences in TV. He said, "I did the show Jericho, and I saw so many different directors get kind of the same result from completely different angles. Like, this guy's more actor-friendly, this guy's more technical. And what I learned was that there is no, quote, right way to direct. You have your style, and that was very liberating to me, because I thought there was a right way. And once I realized there wasn't, that you could just go with your instincts, I felt a lot more confident to try." Compared to writing the script, directing had way less bumps in the road.
The thing I learned about writing novels and also directing is that they're kind of the same job, ultimately. It's about creating a world and creating a tone and a universe that everyone, all the characters get to play in. But in one, all you're using is your imagination and some words on a piece of paper. And on the other one, you're using as many as 350 people at any given time. And what's beautiful about the process is it is always evolving, and the people that you work with are always challenging you to make it better, and they're adding their own sense of autobiography or their own passions.
Chobosky's willingness to collaborate cannot be understated. That sounds like it should be easy or a given, but it's not. Film is a collaborative medium, but best idea wins is much more difficult when it's your story people are building on. Something I really couldn't help but notice from watching the director's commentary is that, and I'm not exaggerating, every other sentence out of Steve Chobosky's mouth is him commending everyone who was a part of the movie. From the music coordinator, someone from production design, the costumes by David, a producer, or even an extra that he remembered by name, not even a PA. an extra. It just says a lot about the environment on set. Chobosky carried this same inclusion with the cast. He didn't want the actors to feel boxed in, like they'd be offending him if they played with their characters or didn't stick to every word he wrote. He encouraged things that can't be written into dialogue, riffing between the characters. It was important to him that they had room to spread their wings, especially because many of the big moments the characters were experiencing was also the first time the actors got to experience them. For most of the cast, this was the only homecoming, prom, and high school graduation they'd ever had. In a very real way, this made their performances more authentic. Recently on the podcast, Emma Watson talked about her experience with Steve Chobosky.
I worked far harder for Steve than I worked for any other director because I think I was able to give a far more vulnerable performance in that film because I felt that he really cared about me beyond the product of the film. And I want to work with people like that for whom the process is as important as the outcome, and the people that are part of it are more important than whatever the outcome is.
I really try not to outwardly speculate on the characters or personalities of people that I don't personally know, but it would feel dishonest to omit that a great portion of the success of The Perks of Being a Wallflower can be attributed to Steve Chobosky just genuinely being a good guy. How he made the actors feel on set definitely at least contributed to the spirit the movie has. I really like to take movies or episodes or scenes apart and tear them up and determine what each little detail did separately that in tandem made me feel however I felt. But when I sat down to do that for this movie, I found it so difficult to pin down all the pieces. Because how does a movie capture spirit? How do you measure that? It's like trying to articulate chemistry between two people. You can't cram it in a test tube and study it to find and define each ingredient. It's intangible. But you can still see it. It leaves little traces. Like I've always loved this shot of Sam reading and reacting to Charlie's Christmas card for her. But I never knew that it was the way that it was because Stephen Chobosky had surprised Emma Watson by writing her a kind note in the card itself. And her reaction reading it and tearing up was genuine. I guess it just makes me think about, is there a part of us that can sense those things on a human level? Does putting thought and care into something change the way we perceive it? And I don't just mean with actors. This was an extremely personal story for Steve Chobosky, and it shows all throughout the film, even when it doesn't. The guy who plays the cop in this scene was Chobosky's best friend in high school, who also starred in his first movie. This shot of Charlie outside with Santa's landing strip was filmed on the street where Chobosky grew up. His childhood home, where his parents were still living when this movie was filmed, is just out of frame. The King's restaurant is down the street from Chobosky's high school, and his parents eat breakfast there 3 times a week. Even if we never know any of these details, is there a part of us that can feel them? Can we tell when something is made with love? It's something I never used to think about, but with the sudden and exponential rise of AI, it's hard not to, because Chobosky's right. Screenwriting as a medium is unforgiving in its adherence to structure. You plug some plot points into a tried and true formula, have a character save a cat and make a couple of jokes, give them ups and downs, and you have a script. And yes, countless stories that are completely original from each other have been told this way. And I know there's a lot of discourse going on that AI isn't there yet and it never will be, and I hope that's true. But if it's not, will we be able to tell? Movies like The Perks of Being a Wallflower make me feel like we will. Also, awful statistic, 98.5% of my viewers are not subscribed, so please subscribe. It's embarrassing to say our goals, but I'm trying very hard to get to 200,000 subscribers. So if you could help me with that, that would be amazing. Thank you so much.